Question 11 asks which pair of angles are coterminal with 11 pi over 6 radians. So we've been shown 11 pi over 6 in this diagram here, and we know for an angle to be coterminal, it has to fall in exactly the same spot. And so to do that, what we have to do is make a full revolution of the circle, either in the positive counterclockwise direction or the negative clockwise direction, and so that we get to the same spot, but we've actually made a whole nother loop of the circle. And so we know that a full circle in radians corresponds to 2 pi radians. So what we're doing here to find coterminal angles is basically taking 11 pi over 6, our angle, and adding or subtracting full revolutions of the circle, which is 2 pi times n, where n is a whole number for the number of revolutions we've done. And so we can just figure out this question by either adding or subtracting 2 pi n and then figuring out which of the answers are present in what we've been given for our choices. So I'm going to start with just adding successively 2 pi and seeing what we get. So starting with 11 pi over 6, I'm going to add 2 pi to do one full circle and get an angle that's coterminal with 11 pi over 6. But to add these fractions, what I want to do is get the denominators the same. And so what I'm going to do is multiply 2 pi by 6 over 6, which is just 1. This is going to give me 11 pi over 6. 2 pi times 6 is 12 pi over 6. And so now I can add those two together easily. 11 pi plus 12 pi is 23 pi over 6. So that's not one of our options up here, but it's still a coterminal angle. What we can do now is add another 2 pi to this and see if that gets us anything. So I'm just going to add 12 pi over 6 again, which is just the same as 2 pi. 23 pi plus 12 pi is 35 pi over 6. This is one of our correct answers. Up here, 35 pi over 6. But let's see if this other option in option A is correct as well. This is a negative number, so what we've done in this case is subtracted 2 pi from 11 pi over 6. But let's see if we get this answer when we subtract. So I'm going to take 11 pi over 6, and in this case subtract 12 pi over 6, which is 2 pi. So in this case I'm just going the opposite direction around the circle. And what this gives me is 11 pi minus 12 pi is negative pi over 6. That doesn't match up, but it doesn't mean it's wrong. Let's just try another circle in the negative direction as well. So going from here, negative pi over 6, again subtracting 2 pi, or 12 pi over 6. Negative pi minus 12 pi is negative 13 pi over 6. And along with 35 pi over 6, that is one of the options in question A. And so answer A for question 11 is correct. We can also check these other options and make sure they're not correct. In this case, negative pi over 6 is another correct answer that we found, but negative 29 pi over 6 is not one of the ones we found, and we've gone past this angle in our addition of 2 pi's, so we know that it's not a correct answer. All the other ones fall within this range of 35 pi over 6 and negative 13 pi over 6, so we know that they're not correct answers either, and we can be confident that A is the correct answer.